Okay. There's so much that we could talk about to choose from when we think about Shavuos, when we think about special holidays coming up. We've spoken a lot about Talmud Torah and different aspects of Talmud Torah. I thought maybe we'd talk about something a little different, but it's also related to Shavuos, because according to certain sources, David HaMelech's yard site is on Shavuos. The Gemara tells us in Shabbos on Daf Lamed that David HaMelech died on Shabbos. That's what the Gemara says. But there is a Mesorah that he died on Shavuos too. And that's interesting because assuming that's true, so then Shavuos is really a day that celebrates both Torah and Tefillah, because David is the source of most of our Tefillah. That's what we say in Baruch She'amar. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the source, obviously, the personality of most associated with Torah. So we're celebrating Torah and Tefillah, David and Moshe. I think I've mentioned in the past that Shavuos also has another connection to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, we know, was Zayin Adar, but he was born 3 months early. All right, because in Egypt, so that he wouldn't be detected. So Moshe Rabbeinu's due date was Shavuos. 3 months after Zayin Adar is Vav Sivan. Vav Sivan, Zayin Sivan. So really, Moshe Rabbeinu's due date was Shavuos. Again, another connection that Moshe Rabbeinu has with Shavuos, but again, David HaMelech as well. We read Rus that talks about David HaMelech's lineage. There's many connections between this holiday and David HaMelech. I thought maybe we talk about a topic that there have been svarim written about this topic. But we're just going to hopefully do some of the Rashi Prakim, maybe a little more food for thought, and then feel free to do more research on your own. So we'll give some of the basic approaches of the various Mefarshim relating to the Chet of David HaMelech. David HaMelech's sin. David HaMelech's sin with Bathsheba. There are a number of events in David HaMelech's life that require elaboration. We're going to focus on the David and Bathsheba story in a couple of minutes, Be'ez Hashem. But just to start off, the Gemara tells us in Shabbos on Daf Nun Hey and Nun Vav, the Gemara goes through 6 different biblical personalities. 6 personalities, and the Gemara says, by each of this, whoever says that these people sinned, they're wrong. They're making a mistake. Allah Omer blank chata, Eino Elatoa. So I gave you just a few of them. The Gemara says in source number 1, Kol Omer Ruvain chata. That's the first one in the Torah, Eino Elatoa. If somebody says Ruvain sinned, they're mistaken. Why? Because it says right after the story with him and Bilhah, they're all together. They're all the Shiftei Ka. What does it say? It says he lay with Bilhah, his father's Pelegesh, his father's concubine. He messed up the bed for some reason. We're not going to focus on that sin. If you want, there's a lumdus on the Daf Shir on the OU Torah site, all about that sin, Reuven's sin. But we're not going to focus on that in this year. He did something with her bed for some reason, and so it's ki'ilu he lay with her. And the Gemara says that about 6 personalities. The Gemara has a mnemonic. Not a mnemonic, it's a phrase. Ruvain, B'nai Eli, B'nai Shmuel, David Shlomo, and Yoash. Yoash, which might not be Yoash, I mean Yoshiyahu. Either way, these are the 6 personalities. But each one, the Gemara says, whoever says they sinned, ain't no elatah. The question is, what does that mean? Did these people not do anything wrong? Like they would tzaddikim yisod olam, and even when it says that they sinned, so what does it mean that they sinned? The Psukim in the Torah, the Psukim in Rabbi said they did something wrong. So what is the Gemara telling us? How are we supposed to understand the Gemara? I mean, on that same daf, Shabbos Hey, the Gemara quotes the 4 people who never sinned. And there's no overlap between the 6 people on one list and the 4 people on the other list. Right? The 4 people, as we know, are Binyamin, Amram, Yishai, and Kilav. I gave it to you there in source number 2. So those are the 4 people, right? You had it in Bava Basra, right at the end of the first paragraph. So the people who we're focusing on did sin sometime. But again, specifically the sins that they were, so to speak, focusing on. The Gemara says, Eino Elatoa. What does that mean? What's the message? So first, 2 general approaches to the sugya, and then we'll get to specifically David HaMelech. But first, 2 important sources in general. I'm not saying there's a machlokas between these great achronim, but in hashkafa, it seems to be a machlokas in how you view them. So first, Reb Dessler. Reb Dessler says in source number 3, in an article called Chata'eim Shel Gdolei Olam, the sins of the great ones. Says Reb Dessler, Kishenishma Adam Mishtamish B'milas Avla. When we hear a person that talks of Avla, that talks of a sin, somebody says there was an Avla done to me. Lo nuchal adas klal le'ezed darga shel chom avehu miskaven. I have no idea what that means. You know, something was done. Person talking is not happy about it, but you don't know what Avla means. You don't know what it means because first you have to know about the person talking. It depends on the one talking. So, for example, Rav Safra, right? Let's say if the greatest tzaddik in the world says there was an Avla done, that's one understanding. If the greatest Russia in the world says there was an Avla done, probably a different understanding. Rav Safra, Geneva hikvarim eno dover emes bovavo. The end of Maseches Makos. Remember, if Safra, he would say Shmona Esrei, and the person was trying to sell him a watch, so to speak, and he didn't answer because he was saying Shmona Esrei, and he kept going up and up and up in price until after Shmona Esrei, he says, I'll sell it to you for lower price, the lowest price. What do you mean? Because not doing that would be Geneva. That's not Geneva. For him, it's Geneva. He would consider that Geneva. With Tosefta, the Tosefta and Baba Kama, Misha Omer Devar B'Shem Amro, who Kargana. If I say something without quoting who I'm saying it from, that's Geneva. That's Geneva? Geneva, that word could have different meanings. Yesha lo yavchinu. Geneva b'rama was shel maso matan. V'yesh ganav stam shlo yasak shema avlo b'geneva klal. So the word Geneva can mean different things depending on what you're talking about, depending on who's talking. V'hinei ha'arachasa shel ha'torah ha'kadosha. When we talk about the Torah and the way that the Torah uses words, obviously it's the ultimate in terms of how words are used. And therefore, we have to recognize that if the Torah says that a sin was done, it might not be the way that we would use the word sin. If Rav Safra says Geneva is, saying something that really we wouldn't term Geneva, and that's Rav Safra, one of the great members of Chazal, but now go backwards to the great biblical figures, and now go backwards to the Baruch Hu, Torah. So we have to recognize that our usage of words is not the same as the Torah's usage of words. Okay, move on. Torah b'chatoa midaka erin shir. Amatir microscopy. Lo yaspik l'aseiz banu musag midakas b'shpata. Even microscope, which enlarging it, it's infinite. We can't imagine the way that the Torah uses the words. Okay, when the Torah says, and this probably has bothered us before, the Torah says Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into Mitzrayim because lo hamanten bi. He didn't have emunah. Moshe didn't have emunah by hitting the rock. You call it not having emunah for Moshe Rabbeinu. But we shouldn't use it in the same way. So therefore, it says the Kessler. More examples. Halash on line 20. The Torah describes the sins using Torah language, not our language. And therefore, many times, it's not meant, we say don't be taken literally. It is to be taken literally. The Torah, every word of Torah is emes. It's not to be understood the way that we understand the words. Right? It comes up all the time. Gemara talks about tapuach, making a charos into tapuach, and early sources, the Midrashim talking about a tapuach. That's why some people say, you know what tree the Adam Chava ate from? The apple tree. No apple tree. There are 4 different days in Chazal. None of them are apples. Tapuach in Chazal doesn't seem to mean apples. It's some type of citrus fruit. So we apply our translation of tapuach to back then, because that's how we use the word. But we have to know that Torah doesn't use the same words. When the Torah says sin, says Reb Dessler, this is all his approach, it's different. Like, quote by Achan. Remember the story by Achan, by Yeshua ben Nun? Hashem says, Chata Yisrael. Jewish people have sinned. Who sinned? One person. Only one person sinned. What do you mean, Chata Yisrael? Yeah, because Klal Yisrael at that stage had an achrayus. Klal Yisrael aravim zelazeh. And everybody would be called. What do you mean only one person sinned and only one person was punished? But the Torah uses words in different ways than we use it. Or he says by the Chet Egel too, the whole nation sinned, but only 3,000 people were killed. What do you mean the whole nation did Avodah Zarah? The answer is no. There's different types of sins and different levels. That's the shot, says Rav Dessler, of all of these statements. Kala Omer David Chata, Kala Omer Reuven Chata. What does that mean? Whoever says that their sin could be measured like our sins could be measured, whoever says that, oh, he was Chata like I'm Chota, that's a mistake. That's what's called in modern language. There's something called Tanakh Gova Einayim. You ever heard the phrase? Tanakh Gova Einayim means the height of my eyes. What does that mean? That I'll put biblical figures right across from me. I'm here and Yehuda's there. I'm there and David HaMelech is there. It's like me, like we're equal. So when it says in the Torah that they did something wrong, that's just like me. Tanakh Gova Einayim says Rav Dessler Chas v'Shalom. The way we use words and the way they use words, we can't we have to know based on how Chazal interprets. And that's what it means. Of course, they did something. It was some type of chait, but it was a backwards chait. It was a chut asayra chait. And we have to recognize that and understand what happened, but it's not like our sins. Rav Yerucham Levavitz on the next page says the same idea. And he says, I agree with Rav Dessler's idea that we don't understand it. You can't say, Rav Yerucham emphasizes what I mentioned before, that it's not meant to be taken literally. We spoke earlier in the day about pshat. The pshat is always correct. What do you mean? It says here by Yishkav. And Reuven lay with his wife, with his father's concubine. No, Vayishkav doesn't have to mean he lay with his father's wife. That's not what the word means in the context. You have to understand it. Kipshuto. Ukishenomar on the fourth line, but Torah Vayishkav, in a Zeva Yishkav Mamish. Ela shechasar lanu kol ha'avana v'asaga b'dmilah shel Torah Kadosha. Etzleinu anyanim heinam mugbalim. We have a certain understanding of what Ganav is, what does Arias mean? On Reuven's level, something with the head, that was Ki'ilu Vayishkav. That was considered Akilu. That was considered Vayishkav. We just don't understand the words in the same way. But this is one whole approach, which is basically minimizing the sin to a great extent, which, again, each of the two extreme approaches that I'm sharing have certain values that we can learn from them. Obviously, we have to recognize that these are people that we can't fathom. David HaMelech is one of the Roim, one of the seven Ushpizin, and we'll talk about his greatness a little bit later. This is one approach, Rav Dessler, Rav Yerucham. On the opposite side, I would put, is Rav Hirsch. Rav Tomshon Raphael Hirsch says, in a number of places, I gave you one. This is from Lech Lecha. Commenting on the Ramban says that Sarah Imenu did a chet chata gedola, a terrible sin by torturing Hagar. The Ramban says that. So Rav Hirsch is commenting on that Ramban. How can the Ramban say that? Sarah Imenu. Says Rav Hirsch, by saying that our great avos and imos were not perfect, that doesn't make them any less in our eyes. Actually, it makes them greater role models in our eyes. Ein haTorah ma'alima es hashkiyot. Torah never hides away mistakes. Hashkagos, ha'chulshos, shel gdolei ador. The mistakes of the great ones. And Dafka, by not hiding from the mistakes, it gives a veracity, it gives a truthfulness to the stories. But says Rav Hirsch, truthfully, Yedias chetam shel Gedolei Yisrael einena manmichas Musa doesn't make them less. Elo lehefech Musam Gola umalefes. To the fact that they sinned and they still were great, that's what makes them great leaders. Ilu is hiru kula gazar rakia. If it was true, and this is what many people used to say about the Golem books. You read a Gadol book, and he was making brachas on his mother's milk when he was 3 years old, and he never spoke Lashon Hara in his life, and he daven basikin from the age of 6. And you read these books, and you're like forget. Okay, it's not shaykh. I'm not connected. They have a different makeup than me. That's not a role model. That's not somebody that I could connect to. Says Rav Hirsch, if they would all be perfect, below Ravav Shemesh Pagam, Svurim, the Tibam Shani Mitzvah, they have a different teva than me. They never have any challenges. Or the famous letter of, I didn't give it to you, of the Pachad Yitzchak Rav Rosner, where the Talmud wrote to him once and said, Rabbi, I wish I was like the Chafetz Chaim. I wish he had it so easy. It's a tov, but he was always a tzaddik. The Pachad Yitzchak writes back to this Talmud, you have no idea how much the Chafetz Chaim struggled and how often he failed. Only Rav Rosner could say that. And then he got up. Don't say that the Chafetz Chaim didn't have, challenges and the philos and you read those va'aliyos. Because that's what makes him a great leader of ours. If they were perfect, they wouldn't be leaders. Moshe. Says Rav Hirsch, only because we know that Moshe Rabbeinu sometimes get angry, we realize that his midah of humility was something astounding that he was able to work on and to overcome. Because we know Shimun Amorim, that's why Ana Mikal Adam is even more amazing. It says Rav Hirsch, no. You could focus on the sins. Again, I think Rav Hirsch would say he has to understand the Chazal also. Eino Elato. What does that mean? I think he would agree. There's not sinning like we're sinning, but I don't think Rav Hirsch is pushing it so far as Rav Kessler just in terms of Hashkafa. Yes, they made mistakes, but that's what makes them great leaders. Again, not like our mistakes, but we can learn from them. They're human, right? The Mefarshim point out that when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, what does it say? There was a man, source number 6, a man from Beis Levi, took a Bas Levi, they had a child. Moshe was human, had human parents. Unlike other religions who say that certain messianic figures were born of God and not born of human beings. And somebody once pointed out, what do we call them in Hebrew? Notzrim, Notzri. Why are they called Notzri? Why are Notzrim called Notzri? Notzar means to be formed. We emphasize that just like everybody else in the world had parents, Yeshu had Notzri. He also had parents. He's a Notzri. No, he was Notzar. He was also formed from parents. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah emphasizes, was born from parents. Our greatest leader was a human being, not one of these magical figures that the imagination makes up. And that's background. That's background, general approaches to the topic. And these two ideas that we just said apply to Reuven and David and Shlomo and all of them. But now let's spend the rest of our time talking specifically about David HaMelech. And David HaMelech's story with Bathsheba. Let's read some of the psukim. In the psukim, it seems there was something very wrong. That's the Shuto Shel HaPsukim, and that is what we'll see the Abarbanel says. That's what it says. Again, the Gemara darshans many of these phrases. David is home, in source number 7 on top. It was evening time. David got up from his bed. The Gemara already says, what was he sleeping during the day and getting up in the night? That was already a problem. He went on the roof. He sees over a couple of roofs over, there was a woman washing her laundry. And she was very beautiful. David sends and Yidrosh Laisha. He seeks out for the Isha. What does that mean? We'll see. That's Batsheva, or his wife. David goes and asks, who is that? Oh, Batsheva, Aisha's Uriah. And the very next pasuk seems to say he went and he took her and he lay with her. So she wasn't the Nida, the pasuk emphasizes to us. But then she goes back to her house. Isha, she gets pregnant. I'm pregnant. David then goes and tells Yoav, quickly get Uriah, her husband, back. David asks him, how you doing? David says, you know what? You've had a long time in the battlefield. Why don't you go home to your wife? And he goes. Basically, he doesn't want to go home. Why do you want to go home? Uriah says, well, the Bnei Yisrael are fighting a battle. I don't want to go home. I'm going to go home. Sheba said, one night. Go back one night. Be with your wife one night. And I'll send you back tomorrow. Uriah says, no, I'm not leaving. Didn't go home. We know the rest of the story. David sends Uriah back to the battlefield and tells Yoav, put him on the front line. Knowing putting on the front line what's going to happen. He's killed. Few took him later. Source number 8. David hears that he's killed. What does he do? He goes and takes Batsheva for a wife. You read the story, it seems pretty clear what happens here. And the next source talks about the very next parak, where Nasan Hanavi goes to David, and the mashal of the kibsa, a poor man has one little sheep, and the rich man steals it. What should happen? And David says, what a terrible guy. And Nasan says, Ta'ish, you are that man. You read the story, seems like it was a pretty serious case. Serious violation. And the Abarbanel says, I know Chazal. Abarbanel says, I know what Chazal say, but what could I do? Read the Psukim. So it's not just one word of hate. There are 5 problems here. The Abarbanel does not mince words. The Abarbanel in source number 10 says, David did 5 things wrong. Number 1, Eishes Ish. Number 2, I'm not going to read all of his words right now. Number 2, trying to cover up his actions. Number 3, he sent Uriah back to the battlefield to be killed. Caused him to be killed. Number 4, according to the Gemara, he was more of a malchus. He didn't listen to David, so kill him yourself. Don't send him to be killed by an enemy. Number 5, next page, that he married her right after. He married her. How could this be? Line 12. And then he quotes Chazal. David was going to do it. He didn't really do it. There are 20 psukim about this story, says the Abarbanel. If David didn't sin, the very next pasuk he says, I sinned. And he did shuvah for the rest of his life. He is very strong. I wish I could, but I can't. So he says, what can I do? And there are many Gemaras that seem to say there was a chitan. Remember the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Zayin, source 11. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav, La'olam al Yavi Adam Atmali Dini Sayon. David HaMelech Yisrael Hevi Atmali Dini Sayon V'nichshal. David HaMelech brought an Nisayon onto himself. He says to Hashem, it's not fair. 3 avos, they don't mention me in the Amida. Why not? Hashem says, because you didn't have a test. David says, give me a test. I was like, really? Yes. Okay, I'll give you a test. And that's what happens. That's what happened. The Gemara B'Metzia, one of the sharpest lines in all of Shas. B'Metzia Nuntes, David HaMelech complains to Hashem that they don't let him off. They don't give him a break. David says, source 12, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbon Shalom, Galui V'yadua Lefanecha Shemayim Makaran B'Sari V'yadam Yishosias La'aretz. If they would rip open my flesh, I wouldn't bleed. I don't have any more blood left. I've been so embarrassed all my life. Below Ode, Afilu B'Shash Oskin B'Nagam Ba'alis. I'm giving a shear on Nagam and Alis. Somebody would raise their hand. Say, Rabbi, can I ask you a question? And I would say, yes. He says, what's the halacha of Hamizana Be'eshes Ish? No matter what the topic is. People would ask me, what's the halacha? And I would answer them. Misaso b'chenek, yesh lo chelach olam haba, b'mal b'bnei chaver b'rabim ein lo chelach olam haba. By the way, just to let you know, it's clear that, seems to be clear that there was something wrong done here. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, the Gemara Bava Metzia. But, as we said above, it's not like our sins. And the Gemara says on that same daf that really she wasn't an Eishes Ish. Because everyone who went out to Milchamas Beis David, the top of the next page, wrote a get to their wife, just in case they didn't come back. So she wasn't married. It's called Eishes because she had been married, but she definitely wasn't married. And the Malbim, who often takes issue. The Abarbanel, remember, 1400s. Malbim, 1800s. With the classic commentaries on Navi. The Malbim often takes issues with the Abarbanel. He says if you read the Tzukkim with a fine-tooth comb, then it can't be that he actually sinned. Too many things don't make sense. For example, you want to say it was a taiva of the moment? Okay, but you know what the halach is with Eishes Ish Zinsa? Asur L'Baal and Asur L'Boel. Never married David. So David lived in sin for the rest of his life. And Shlomo HaMelech came from Shlomo HaMelech was a mamzer? Actually, not a mamzer, but a pagum? How could that be? By the way, Asur L'Boel. You don't say David was Asur to Bathsheba afterwards? I remember when the baby was born, David, the baby shouldn't die. But if this was a real mamzer, why did he? Obviously, a mamzer is a human being and not take care of them. But in this situation, would David work so hard? And David did tshuva. How did he do tshuva if he still lived with this woman who he's asura to live with the rest of his life? Where is the control of the Sheretz B'yado? How can you say that? Abarbanel and Pashtus. Bech Bachar Hashem Mizera Nolad Meisha Azos Shevat Moshlim. And Shlomo HaMelech comes from this? It can't be. It can't be that it actually was. It was Gekrisus. And there was something higher pulling David. Keep it Shnei Apanim Ha'ela Yasa David Noki Mitzunas Mari. And go and he goes through all of the details that emphasize what Chazal told us. So, okay, so let's assume like the Malbim, let's assume based on Chazal, but there's one major question that we'll have to deal with specifically with David. Why did the Torah formulate it in such a way, though? The Navi. If it wasn't such a sin, okay, the pasuk by Reuben is one pasuk, and Bnei Levi is a little bit, but there's the whole story. Why does the Navi portray it in such dark and graphic terms? As if it was mamish, took place as if it wasn't Eishes Ish Zinsa. So, four quick ideas. Why was it portrayed in such a sinful way, so to speak? Number one, the first two are from the Drashas Haran. The Ran didn't only write a commentary on Shas, but he also has his drushes. Says the Ran, the Drashas Haran. It's the opposite of what you think. You know why it's portrayed like this? Look at the bottom of the page. Aval hatshuva bazeh, ki hagalui v'asasum be'einenu, nei karim galim l'bali tshuva. Last line. Yitzia akasav zeh ki luchata chegado v'atzum. She'oso hama'at l'David, morim barabosenu shachata, ve'enechshav lo, kamoshi enechshav l'adam acher shachata, kol mashir olav shad akasav. It reflects the tablets of David HaMelech. We know what David did, and it wasn't so bad. Navi portrays it like this because in David's eyes, he looked at it as if he did this. And on the level that he was on, what he did was Ki'ilu, he did this for everybody else. Everybody else is doing this with David HaMelech's Chut. So it's portrayed that way, knowing that it didn't happen, to emphasize to us the level that David was on, and he did something wrong, like Rav Hirsch says. But it's portrayed in such a graphic fashion to reflect to us how great David HaMelech really was. Hodia HaKasav. And the pasuk emphasizes that it was very chamor to teach us how great David HaMelech was. That was number one. And he always had it on his mind. The second idea, though, is in the first part of the Justice Aran. It kind of goes together, but it's to emphasize that tshuva is always possible. And tshuva is always accepted. The most chamor actions, as long as we do a true tshuva on them, and we feel bad, and we regret, and we don't whitewash it. In David HaMelech's eyes, he didn't minimize it. He looked at it as Ki'ilu, he was Mizana, and he was Horeg. Look at the beginning of 15. If they didn't do the chet hanireh. But in his eyes, he always kept it. Because tshuva is always possible. You can never whitewash, right? Again, his emphasis, the Ran's emphasis is that he didn't whitewash it. He didn't try to minimize the chatoim that occurred. He always kept it on his mind. But sometimes we do something and we kind of forget about it because, as soon as we can, because wasn't such a big, terrible thing. The answer is, but David HaMelech didn't minimize anything. He kept it big in his mind. I'm adding that maybe you could also look at it the other way. It's emphasized it's formulated in such a large way, the Avera, to show that Shuv is always possible. David HaMelech is the siman, is the symbol of Shuvah. So A, don't look at it as anything small. But B, to always recognize that it's always possible. And that's exactly what the Rambam mentions, both of these points, in source number 16 in Hilchos Shuvah, where the Rambam says, first of all, don't think that Shuvah is only needed for major sins. Al Tamar she'ain Shuvah el me'aver she'ish ben Maisa, or physical sins that involve an action. Znus, Gezel, Geneva. No, it says the Rambam, even searching within ourselves, even in Midah, Chaim shetzorach adam lashuv me'elu, kachu tzorach lechapes b'deus ro sheyesh lo, v'lashuv min hakas, min ha'eva, min ha'kina, hitlo redifas ha'kavod. Tshuva, there's nothing minimal. Every part of our spiritual personality requires improvement always. We can always be going up. That's on the one hand. Meaning never minimize, like the Ron said. But then you can say the other way. The Al Yadam in the very next halacha. Yadama Adam Bal Tshuva. And don't think that you're so far off that you're not going to be able to do it. I don't have kavana, this and that. No, Hashem loves you. So both elements. Number one, why is it mentioned in such a graphic way? Number one, the godless of David HaMelech. He's so great that it's ki'ilu. Everybody else did this, even though he did such a small. Number two, tshuva element. Number one, there's nothing that you don't have to do tshuva on, meaning we should always magnify and focus on what we need to improve on. And the second part of that is that we should always recognize that tshuva is always possible. A third idea, third out of four. The Ben Yoyada, the Ben Ish Chaim in Sichas Yuma suggests maybe the point is not the Avera itself, because it wasn't per se, but it was a perception. It was a major chil Hashem. Did everybody know that he wrote a get? You know, when word got out, it's clear from that Gemara Bamitzia. People knew about this. It technically wasn't an Avera, but you know what? David HaMelech, Chil Hashem. So it was written in the way that people understood it, even if it might not have happened. Then when it comes to David HaMelech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs him and needs anyone in that type of position to hold themselves to even higher levels. Right, the Gemara says in Shabbos that a Talmid Chacham can't go out with a stain on his shirt. Can't go out. Why? Because people identify you with Torah and they'll look at you and they'll say, oh, look at him. Rashi there. We have to recognize. And we all have to say, well, I'm not a Talmid Chacham, so I don't have to worry about how I dress. No, we're all identified with Torah. We're identified with Abdi Hashem. And the more we know, the more we're responsible, right? The Rambam writes, Torah. Turning over to the next page. The greater somebody is, the greater opportunity there is for Kiddush Hashem. And Rahman al-Islam, the opposite. People look at us and try to model their behavior. David HaMelech was in a position of authority, a position where people looked up at him. And therefore the standard is higher. And it's Ke'ilu. This was done because of the Chil Hashem element. But again, all of us, I think, have to learn from that, to put ourselves into those situations and know that we're identified. As the B'nai Torah, as the children of Hashem, we have to do everything we can. Fourth and final idea. A number of sources say this. I gave it to you again from Rabbi Yerucham. I think we had another shiur about this topic itself. But Rabbi Yerucham says a Kabbalistic idea. And that is the question. Let's go back for a minute. David HaMelech's lineage. Lot and his daughters. Yehuda and Tamar. Rus and Boaz. Again, all these stories could be explained. But why is this David HaMelech's lineage? Now, wouldn't you think it should be perfect, pristine, miyuchas? This is where David comes from? Right? If somebody called and wanted somebody to go out with your son. Oh, yeah, what's your daughter? Oh, what's he like? Yeah, his mother's a Moabite, but great family. Now, why is this in David HaMelech's background? So there's a Kabbalistic idea said by the Beis Yosef, and said by others. Rabbi Yerucham quotes it in source 22, that when Hashem wants to bring something great into the world, a special gift to the world, he often has to clothe it with unseemly covers so that the Midas Hadin doesn't say, hey, they don't deserve it. Hey, how can you bring that? So Hashem has to try to cover it up. That's why the Beis Yosef says David HaMelech's lineage was this. So then nobody ever thought, oh, this Mashiach's going to come from here? No, it can't be. Nobody would think that. Explains Rabbi Yerucham in the Das Torah. Maybe that's why also it's formulated like this. This relationship is going to bring Mashiach. It's going to bring Shlomo. It's going to build the Beis Hamikdash. Nobody would ever think that. Again, on a Kabbalistic level. And that's why it's formulated like that. So you might say the Malachim know really what happened, and not just how it says it in the text. Okay. But at least this is how it is formulated. Because, again, a message for us could be, there's always bracha when something is hidden. We don't always have to be rah-rah. The Gemara says, the Medrash says, the Luchos Shnios were the ones that lasted. Why? Because they were given b'tznius. The first Luchos were given b'pumbi in public, ayin hara sholei. The second Luchos were given b'tznius, quietly. Right? Don't talk about it. Sam Sofer even says on last week's Parsha, on Bechukosai, right? The Medrash says at the beginning of Bechukosai that David HaMelech used to go out of his house in the morning, and he used to plan to go to all different places. Go to the store, go to here, go to there, and he always ended up in the base medrash. That's what the medrash says. So asks the Chaim Topher, why did he just say I'm going to the base medrash in the morning? Why do you even have thought I'm going to go to the store? I'm going to go to here. I'm going to just go to I'm going to the base medrash. Because that's the Chaim Topher. If he would have said I'm going to the base medrash half the time, he never would have gotten there. Because whenever we say we're going to do something, that's when the prosecutors in Shemayim say, I'm going to get him. You know, Emar Harbe Vasemat. Yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Don't publicize it. Just do it. I'm going to learn, I'm going to start Daf Yomi, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. No, just do it. Just do it. Because bracha is found when something is covered. Shlomo HaMelech was born in a covered situation. From the outside, it didn't look like anything. But deep down, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew what it was. So why was it written in such a way? So extreme, if we assume that it wasn't done against that of Abarbanel. Number one, to emphasize David's godless. It was Ke'ilu. For everybody else, it would have been like Znus. The David was at such a high level. Number two, it's about tshuva. It's about showing you can do tshuva even from such chomer averos. Number one. And number two, David didn't minimize it. Didn't whitewash the event. Number three, there was a Chil Hashem element. And that message is for anyone who's in a position of connecting as representative of Torah, we have to take that responsibility. And number four, it was covered that Kadosh Baruch Hu could, so to speak, bring David HaMelech and Malchus based David into the world so that he could bring the bracha of Geula. And just one final point. Why are we spending so much time defending, explaining David HaMelech? Let's just remember one more Gemara. One of my favorites. Suda Shelav Yasan, Imsachim Kuf Yotes. All Jews from every generation in the history of the world are going to be there. Every single Jew is going to be there. Who's going to bench? So, Avram, you want to bench? No, I had Yishmael. Yitzchak, you want to bench? No, I had Esav. Yaakov, no, I married two sisters. I gave you the Gemara, Torah 27. Moshe, you want to bench? No, I didn't go into Eretz Yisrael. Yeshua, no sons. David, you want to bench? I'll bench. Post Yeshua's Esa, Shemesh Emekra. David HaMelech is the one that's going to bench at that suit. David's going to bench. Let's just recognize that. Regardless of who David HaMelech was, what he symbolizes, we can't fathom. So, Einu Elatoah, but we definitely learn a lot from David, as the verse says, but we recognize that he is in a different realm of reality than us, but he's also one of our greatest teachers. We learn from him, and again, Shavuos is a day that we talk about him, whether it's his yard site, whether it's a day that we talk about his lineage, but again, it's a day that we focus on David. We should be zocheh, to be able to be at that Suda very soon and see David hold up the coast Yeshua's Esa, which we David and yearn for so badly. Everybody have a great Shabbos and a great Yontif, and enjoy.